Hello, my name is Austin Culbertson, and here's my presentation on being against paying CEOs in stock promotes growth. It does not cause short-term decision making. Introduction. CEO pay is often tied to company stock. People in favor of this say that it aligns with CEOs and shareholders. Many CEOs get bonuses when they meet their short-term stock goals. Although it may be a gain, there are also losses, which includes cutting research development, firing employees, and less long-term investments. It also boosts stock in the moment and not in the long term. CEO incentives can affect employees, customers, investors, and the entirety of the economy. Here's my position. By paying CEOs in stock, this encourages short-term decision making. It does not promote long-term growth, and stock-based pay for CEOs ties wealth to short-term movements of stock, which encourages risky behaviors and action, shifts the focus from long-term sustainable goals for the greater good of the entire company. Here's my first argument. Stock pay encourages short-term stock manipulation. CEOs benefit when there is a quick rise in stock prices. Some CEOs would rather have better performances per quarter than their long-term stability. Investing periods produce lots of pressure for gains in the short term. Here's my evidence for my first argument. As stated in the article, executive short-termism and excessive emphasis on short-term performance at the expense of long-term interests is widely studied. The concern with short-term pay incentives, says the researchers, is that they lead the CEO to take myopic actions that boost the stock price at the expense of long-run value. Also stated in an article, the main harm is on shareholders, suppliers, customers, or business partners who make decisions without information that they could have received, but which CEOs postpone for their own benefit. And also stated in the article, short vesting periods make it more likely that CEOs pump up their stock price, and then quickly sell their shares at a profit. That leads me into my second argument, which is that stock pay encourages risky decisions. When stock rises, it means that CEOs are making big gains, but if the stock collapses, the CEOs do not suffer like everybody else. This means that they can be aggressive and do these high-risk strategies, which could stunt the long-term growth of the company, even if their decisions backfire. Here's my evidence for my second argument. As stated in an article, they found that when stock option grants constituted half or more of the CEO's pay, 10% of stocks suffered big shareholder losses, while only 6.8% enjoyed big gains, which is a significant difference. Also stated in an article, higher levels of stock option pay would cause CEOs to favor aggressiveness over thoroughness in their decisions regarding internal company operations, a consequence of which would probably be a higher likelihood of mistakes in the design, production, or distribution of products. And lastly, stated in an article, firms that emphasize value-based pay often prioritize executive retention and compensation predictability over growth-oriented leadership. While this approach can offer short-term stability, it may come at the cost of corporate agility and bold decision-making, such as the risky decisions. Here's my third and final argument. It is that stock pay hurts long-term company goals. So CEOs can still cash in and make a profit even if their company gets damaged in the long term. And getting paid based on performance can lessen the leadership overall from the CEO. And the stock pay may not align within the long-term goals for the company in regards to sustainability. And here's my evidence for my third argument. As stated in an article, when Boeing CEO Dennis Muilenburg was ousted from the company for his mismanagement of the 737 MAX crisis, he left with stock options worth at least a net 18.5 million. At the same time, Boeing's shareholders took a beating with the stock losing 25% of its value. As stated in an article, if the CEO drives up the underlying stock price, the options award will be worth more. The problem is that a CEO may take excessive risks to drive up the share price. While that might increase the CEO's compensation, he or she will not necessarily share other shareholders' pain if the stock loses value. And lastly, stated in an article, moreover, performance-based pay can actually have dangerous outcomes for companies that implement it. According to the academics, research has shown that while performance-based pay works well for routine tasks, the types of work performed by CEOs are typically not routine. Performance-related incentives, the authors argue, are actually detrimental when the task is not standard and requires creativity. Where innovative, non-standard solutions were needed or learning was required, research results showed that a large percentage of variable pay hurt performance. Here's my conclusion. So stock pay does not promote long-term growth. Instead, it actually encourages short-term stock manipulation, excessive risky decisions from CEOs, and a lack of long-term accountability. Now, companies should instead pay their CEOs based on encouraging innovation and promoting long-term stability instead of short-term goals, in my opinion. Here are my references. Thank you.